Welcome everybody. In this video, I'm going to teach you guys how you can always beat Akali in mid lane. The first thing you need to do whenever you play with Akali is check out which starting item, summoner spell, and rune that she took, because this massively impacts how she plays the lane. Let's start with summoner spell. Ignite TP. If you're in TP, it's a more mid-game focused rune. She can also use this to tempo reset onto you in the lane. If she takes Ignite, she is going to look to solo kill you and very heavy trade. In regards to the rune, most of the time they go electrocute, like 90% of the times. Unless you're like playing a very tanky composition, that's when they go Conqueror. If they go Conqueror, great. Her laning threat is just massively reduced because her trading patterns line up with Electrocute a whole lot better, and it gives her a lot more kill threat in the early game. But the most important one is a D-Shield versus D-Ring. This is usually about a 50-50 split, depending also on which champion that you're playing. If Akali goes D-Shield, the key thing to keep in mind is that she has a little bit less kill threat onto you, but she has a lot more sustain. So whenever she has D-Shield, wave management becomes a lot more important. If she has D-Ring, trading becomes a lot more important because she has less sustain. So if you can bump her down, beat her good into the ground, it's harder for her to recover. Of course, this massively depends on champ that you're playing as well. So let's start with Akali's lane plan. Okay, what does she want to do? Because knowing what she wants to do, means we can counter it. So Akali is a champion that likes to trade in the early lane because she doesn't have that much wave control, so she likes to get control of the lane through winning the trades. So for her, it's all about winning these trades. How does she do that? How does she win these trades? Well, she can either play the War of Attrition whenever she goes D-Shield, so she's going to trade even with you, then she's going to regen back up, and therefore she's going to win in the long run. And whenever you're about 40% HP or like even 50% HP, she can just all-in you down the long lane and have a kill range onto you. So trading even with Akali, if she runs D-Shield, is never worth it. If she runs D-Ring, her kill ranges are a little bit higher, sometimes even 60-65%, especially if she runs Ignite, but she's then also easier to poke. So it's all about trades, okay? Can you win the trades versus Akali? Then you're going to be in a great position. If you're going to lose the trades, then your lane is going to be absolutely horrible. So keep that in mind for what we're going to be showing throughout the rest of this video. Now, Akali wants to trade. How does she do that? By, of course, using her energy, by using her Q onto you and the mage. She mainly goes for high value Q, which is going to allow her to manage the wave and get good quality trades onto you. Post level 3, whenever she has 2 points in Q and a point in E, Akalis can also E backwards and then get closer towards you. We're going to talk about how to tether that in a minute. And Akali is especially a champion that likes to trade around her W, because her W is just bullshit. Let's just say it out loud. Her W is just bullshit. When I play Akali, I also say it out loud. Akali's W is bullshit, guys. So that means that we got to be very careful of this spell. If she has the spell up, she'll almost win any trade if she gets close to you. If she does not have the spell up, that's when you got to have a little bit more flexibility and room in the lane to pressure her and look to trade onto her. So be very mindful of this W cooldown. It is 20 seconds cooldown, but the cooldown only starts ticking the moment her W is gone. So this is, in practice, 25 seconds cooldown on her W. So keep that in mind. And this means that she can just use it once per wave. So once per wave, you're going to get W'd upon, and she needs to do that because she wants to trade onto you. Post level 6, she's going to look to start skirmishing onto the map with her ult, get lane control through winning the trades. And then she's going to look to team fight around these neutral objectives. And that's something that you really want to avoid most of the time, because there's almost no one stronger than Akali. So in this case, I'm playing Victor versus Akali, which a lot of people think is a very hard matchup. And what I do in this lane is I try to hit Akali because she's running D-Shield in big chunks, okay? A big mistake would be just hit Akali once and then not hit her again. So I'm going to try to... So this Q that I just did onto her wasn't that valuable because she regenerates it up with D-Shield. So I'm going to try to hit her in bigger chunks. So I just gave an out attack onto her head. She does a really good job. This is one of the better Akalis in Europe that I'm versing here. Really high challenger player. So his spacing is very good. And I just try to hit the Akali as much as possible in big chunks. So if I try to hit her, I usually try to combine it with an extra out attack. So try to Q out attack and then be in a position where I can take a little bit of control through the lane. The mindset that I'm playing with here is making sure that I do not get chunked myself, right? Because she's running D-Shield. So I want to make sure that she cannot hit me. And I do a really good job baiting out her W here. If she can only get like a Q off onto me like that, it's not that threatening. The only time when it's going to be problematic is if she actually gets Electrocute proc onto me. So I do a really good job tethering out Akali's E. I try to weave in a lot of auto attacks so the damage actually sticks. If I just use my spells, the damage actually won't really stick. So I'm trying to be a little bit more creative in how I use my spells. Unfortunately, I slightly missed that and missed my Q2 there. But as you can see, the damage is actually sticking a little bit. And because I actually took pretty good trades and I kept myself healthy, I'm now in a position where I can actually all-in her down the long lane. And I actually trade flash for flash. Now, it's not really worth because she actually regenerates up, but it was very close to me getting a kill. I should have waited a little bit longer till I had Q. But as you can see, the mindset is all about these trades, right? I took good quality trades, which led me to be in a position where I was eventually able to kind of stat check, beat the Akali in the lane. I eventually get ganked. I trade 1-for-1, which is like fine. So in the end, we're in a good position. And one thing I really want to talk about is my buy, okay? I go Ruby Crystal. Why do I go Ruby Crystal? If you're a mage or any other champion that can go health, it's just insanely OP versus Akali. Because Akali runs with energy, okay? She has massive energy problems in the early game. And not only in the early game, but throughout the entirety of the game. She has the capability to 100 to 0 you or not. Okay, and if it is not, then you're in a position where you're always able to beat her. So if you take Rod of Ages into like a defensive secondary item like Cosmic Drive, she does not have the ability to 100 to 0 solo kill you in the side lane, and you can actually get lane control versus her. So if you have the ability to go Roa, experiment with it. If your champ doesn't do it, of course don't do it. If you're playing a melee character, right, look into maybe getting like a no magic mantle to prevent her from getting these like insane all-in ranges onto you. Another key thing to keep in mind, whenever you play with Akali in the early game, it's all about her energy. Akali is going to try to use most of her spells onto you. If she ever uses a Q onto the minions by not hitting you, or you can bait out a Q, it's a really long cooldown for her because her energy takes a lot of time to recharge. And level 1 Q takes 110 energy, level 2 Q takes 100 energy, and it just scales down all the way until 70. So you got 90, 80, 70. That's the final rank. But the key ones to keep in mind is the early ones. Very high energy cost. It's very hard for her to use Q out attack Q as a trading combo and proc electrocute. And if you can avoid those electrocute procs, you're in a really good spot. Now, if you're ever gonna get into a position where Akali actually gets in a position where she can control the lane, you want to kind of have the wave towards your side, okay? If Akali gets control of the lane by winning your trades, or you're struggling to get good quality damage onto the Akali, try to hold the wave closer towards your side so you struggle for her to get on top of you. What you're going to find is that if that happens, then Akali is going to have a pretty hard time getting the wave in. Her wave isn't spectacular. She needs to invest her entire kit to get the wave in. And in that case, she basically is not a threat to you and you can kind of avoid the lane like that. Keep in mind, Akali is a very hard champ. A lot of Akali players will outplay themselves in the mid game. And one thing that we see right here is a special trading pattern from Akali that I'm consistently tethering. You see how far away I am from Akali? I'm not tethering her Q range. I'm spacing her EQ range because I expect her to E backwards here, right? That's what I'm thinking. And eventually, I try to bait it out. And if I bait it out, that's when I can get control of the lane. Unfortunately, Yana is there. She lands the Q. Of course, it happens to the best of us. But you see the mindset here in this position. Now, you see that this wave state, it's incredibly hard for Akali to beat. So what I do here is, with the wave state that I was talking about, I hold it onto my side. I make sure that she can't take this E by standing in the tower. I keep one minion alive. And you see how I manage this wave. And this puts so much pressure onto the Akali because she's now really vulnerable to ganks. And it's incredibly hard for her to get that wave state out. So this was incredibly played, leading to a great position of the lane. I always like to get myself early tier 1 boots as well, because early tier 1 boots leads to me in a position where I have an easier time spacing out her spells. You see what happens here? She E's backwards into Q. This is a really good trading combo from Akali, and you can't really do much versus it, because she instantly procs the shout, procs electrocute, and it's so hard for you to counter that trade. So this was a little bit of misspacing by me. Now, post level 6, right, like I mentioned, you got to be very careful for these Akali all-ins. But I sometimes try to bait them out in lane intentionally, because if I can bait her out in lane, she cannot use them on skirmishes. Keep in mind, Akali is the strongest in skirmishes, okay? That's when she is absolutely shining. So around these neutral objectives, these early dragons, you want to be extremely careful, because she will try to use her ult there, and she will one-shot people. She will be the strongest champion in the game if you play that. So try to isolate the lane, prevent her from moving, and then you're going to be in a really good position. Now, the final thing I want to talk about in the mid game is right here. You usually cannot be able to beat Akali in the side lane. I've made a how to side lane in season 16 guide on my Coach Mysterias YouTube channel. And I show an exact example of how to play the side lane into an Akali when you cannot beat her. So I'm going to link the video right here. But if you can beat her because you itemize correctly, in this case health, you see that I'm playing Victor into Akali, and I bought myself a little bit of HP. And it means that even though that she took the Mercs and the Gunblade, she cannot kill me. Look at what happens, right? I outstat her all-in. She cannot kill me on the all-in. And because of the fact that she cannot kill me on the all-in, I actually kill her because her energy doesn't allow extra rotations over spells. So this is incredibly, incredibly funny that she just dies like this to a Victor in the 1v1 in the side lane. Yeah, you see what happens if you itemize correctly in versus Akali. You can beat her in the side. But if you can't beat her, if she can 100-0 you, don't play the side lane. Check out that video. And otherwise, I'm sure that you also struggle versus Mel in mid lane. So check out that video right here.